Good morning, guys. I'm kind of winging this video today. I have a few notes just to kind of keep me on point, but I wanted to take a minute to kind of share with you guys what brought me here, what led me to do this Zaya Rep thing, and how it all came about. And it's gonna start kind of a little bit with my backstory. I can remember thinking in my head, why would anybody do direct sales? Direct sales is hard, like in order to be successful at it, you really gotta hustle. And I've never really seen myself as like a salesperson. I've never really had good experience with salespeople. Like, there's one thing I hate most in this world. It's having to go buy a car. Sales is just a really tough industry, I think, for a personality type like me. When you're someone who expects honesty, gives honesty, seeks authenticity, all of those things. So one of the things where my story kind of starts is kind of back when Brent and I first got married. And it goes further back, but you guys kind of know me from history. Some of you I've remained close with, and some of you we've kind of drifted apart. And I hope that we can reconnect a little bit through this page. But back around when Brent and I first got married, this is like in 2010, we had started trying to have a baby. And at the time I was overweight and I was not eating healthy and I was not ovulating regularly. You guys know the whole drill with that. And we tried for 5 years to have our first baby. And it was around the 5-year mark before we finally went and saw a fertility specialist. The fortunate part was, we got everything checked out, and they basically, they start everyone at square one usually, which is unless they find that there's a deeper issue. They usually start them at square one, which is to just do a round of IUI. It's basically, IUI is just a controlled cycle, and kind of a forced ovulation. That way when you're going to ovulate, so you know when to hit. My husband calls it the turkey baster. You guys can research that a little further if you're interested more about IUI. Anyway, so we did our first round of IUI and we were successful. Like, we were fortunate enough to get pregnant with Rayleigh in 2014. And I ended up by having Rayleigh on St. Patty's Day 2015. She's my St. Patty's Day baby, which is so appropriate because my husband's Irish. So we had Rayleigh. The labor was a little bit difficult. It was an induced labor. I was induced like 3 weeks early. Horrible labor. Like, I had plans to do a natural birth with that one, but by the time I was in labor for 19 hours and still had no progression in the way of like cervical dilation, all of that, I was feeling pretty discouraged and pretty worn out. So I ended up by having an epidural, which is something that I didn't want. But anyway, by the time I got my epidural, it had worn off so quickly because my body was already that far into labor. It just hadn't finally given away. So labor was difficult. The birth didn't quite turn out like I wanted it to, but there weren't any horrible complications either. So it wasn't entirely catastrophic. It just wasn't the plan that I had hoped for. When she came, I was able to breastfeed fairly easy, so we were successful with that. And I was an all-in, like an all-hands-on-deck kind of mom. Now I'm gonna revert to something that I found later in life. We're talking after my son Corbin came. It's the book by Rachel Hollis called, it's her second book, called Girl Stop Apologizing. And when I read that book, something just clicked with me. One of my main takeaways from that book, at least for me, I don't know why, was just, she talked about how when you're younger and you're a little girl, you get these preconceived, like, you develop these ideals of what you think a good mother looks like. And when you picture and you see, when you're little and you're looking up to people and you picture and you see these moms and what you think makes them a good mother, a lot of times it ends up by happening that when a woman's children are happy around her, she's a good mother. When her husband is happy, she's a good mother, or she's a good wife. And so what I didn't realize at the time is I had all these convoluted ideas about what being a good mother means and what being a good mother was, especially for me, because being a good mother is different for everyone. Everyone has different expectations and different ideals of what they think that means. So going back to having Rayleigh, being an all-in mom, like I was excited. I had tried for 5 years. I was ready to be a mama. I was all in. I gave everything of myself to her. And it wasn't in a way that I was trying to spoil her or anything else. I just was so happy and I was absorbing it and I was taking it all in and so thankful for the gift of having her. So I went from loving being a mom and then came time to have our second baby. And I was scared. I'm not going to lie. Like I was scared because I felt like everything was perfect in the way that I wanted it. And I was scared about how having a second could change things. The pregnancy was harder. I had gestational diabetes on the second go around. The whole idea of labor was a source of fear for me because I knew in my heart that I wanted to have a birth center birth and not a hospital birth. If any of you know me well, I don't like to be bossed around. I want to do my own thing. And especially in that kind of situation, when you're going through an extreme amount of pain, if I want to get up and walk, because that's what feels good to my body, then that's what I want to do. And I don't want to be strapped to some hospital bed where I have to have an IV in and carry the darn, or drag around the darn IV cart. I didn't want to be told what to do in that situation. So I knew in my heart I wanted to do a birth center, but Brent was really, being an engineer, he was really nervous and scared about going that route for my safety, for the baby's safety, all the what ifs, right? And throughout the whole pregnancy, I just felt different hormonally, but I educated myself and I educated my husband, and I really, really pushed for it. And we eventually agreed that that was the route that we were going to do. We managed my diabetes through diet and through monitoring my blood glucose. And I ended up by getting my dream birth scenario. I birthed in the water, which I didn't plan to, but that's what ended up by happening because that's where I was most comfortable. And it was such an awesome, amazing environment. I had music playing. I had people around me that were all there supporting me, trying to make me comfortable, reaffirming me, like, this is what your body's made to do. It was just the perfect scenario. So I'm really thankful that I got my dream birth. Then when Corbin came, it was different because I had an easier time breastfeeding Rayleigh. Corbin was a little bit more difficult, and I'm not sure if that's because he was a different child. He still to this day is one of those kids that when he gets mad and frustrated to that point, like he's just got to get it out. There's just no calming him down. It's almost like the physical exertion of his fit is what allows him to move forward. So there's no amount of consoling that can take place at that point. You kind of just have to let him have it out. So once my son came, it was twice the workload, and I had this prideful mentality with my daughter that because she was the only one, that she hardly ever had to cry. I was such a good mom. I could stay on top of things and I could take care of her so well that, I don't even know what it was. It was just convoluted. That's what it was. So when my son came, it was twice the workload, and I really struggled to adjust because I feel like I went from loving motherhood to asking myself, what the heck did I do? Why did I ruin a good thing? That doesn't mean that I regret my son or that I would have undone having him. It just meant I knew internally I was really, really struggling on how to adjust to this new situation. And it became very evident very quickly that I did not have good coping skills for stress and anxiety and feelings of overwhelm. I was acting towards my children in ways that I was not proud of. I was spinning out of control, and it was like a culmination of the perfect storm. And I kind of, for once in my life, I've brushed with depression at different times in my life, and I've always known what to do, how to fix it, and how to make it better. I know I needed to start eating better. I knew I needed to sleep better. I knew I needed to start taking better care of myself, getting out a little more, spending time with friends. I always knew how to help myself. This was different. They say get better sleep. Yeah, right, with a newborn. And I couldn't figure out why I was so stressed now. Why was I struggling so bad? I didn't know how to help myself. And with all of the mother guilt that kicks in and all of the things that the enemy whispers in your ear, I started to listen. And it got to a really bad place. I was planning to do some pretty bad things to myself, and it was just a really hard time in my life. I had gotten to a point where I was so low that I was desperate. I was willing to do anything, try anything, if I thought that it could help me get out of where I was. I remember telling my mom, I said, Mom, I almost feel like the person who's in trial waiting to hear if they've got a life sentence or not. And I feel like I've been given a life sentence. Like, I've gotten myself into a situation that I'm not capable of handling. But nevertheless, I knew things were getting bad. I knew I was headed down a bad path and didn't know how to help myself. And one thing that I did right was to tell the right people, the people that are around you, that are closest to you, that can actually help. A couple of times we flew my mom out. We called her on a Sunday night and we flew her out on a Monday. I went in and saw a specialist who deals with women's hormones, which that was a little tricky because when you're breastfeeding full time, you don't want to be messing with hormones a whole lot. So I was seeking help, and I told the right people to pay attention and to be aware of what was going on with me. And this is when keto came into my life. I sat down one day at one of my most desperate moments, and I said, okay, I strategized. I was like, what is one of the biggest things in my life right now that's causing me unhappiness? And is there anything I can do about it? And for me, it was my health, my weight, my appearance, just all of that kind of fit into the one category of taking better care of myself. And so I started doing research, and I had a friend that was doing Whole30. I had my brother who just got an experience with keto and really loved it. So I had it narrowed down. I was going to do Whole30, paleo, or keto. After doing research, one of the big things about the keto diet is you can lose a lot of weight in a short amount of time. Who the heck doesn't want the quick and easy? So admittedly, I started keto because I was hopeful that I would drop a lot of weight and it would be easy. And it was easy for me. Actually, it was really surprising how easy it ended up by being. But I will also say that when I first started, I was not nearly as strict. I've only gotten more strict through time. I started that first week of keto eating the same thing. I literally just ate lunch meat, cream cheese, and pickles, because I knew that's what was safe. And the further I did research and knew what things I could eat and tweak what things I wanted to cut out of my diet, that's when I started getting more strict. Anyway, after I think it was 6 or 8 months of doing keto, I was down 55 pounds. I was feeling amazing. That's one thing about the keto diet is the euphoric feeling that you get. You get mental clarity, and I think that a lot of that comes from hormone regulation. We Americans, we eat a lot of sugars, processed carbohydrates, which are sugars, a lot of bad stuff, and we don't even realize how much sugar is in everything. There's like 70 some different names that sugar can be hiding in your food label that you don't even know. So, and then we've got all these, these low fat things that we think are healthy, but the problem with the low fat stuff is if you take the fat out, you lose flavor. So you got to add something in to add flavor. So it's just, I learned so much about nutrition. I changed my lifestyle. I lost a lot of weight. Once I got to a point where I felt comfortable and good, I started implementing an exercise routine. I think all of that regulated my hormones. My insulin levels started to drop because I was no longer spiking them constantly. So when your insulin, which is a master hormone, begins to drop, then the rest of your hormones can kind of re-regulate. So keto basically is one of the things that saved me. It just kind of changed my life. And so kind of coming back full circle for my point for this video as to why Zaya? Why direct sales? For me, I'm fortunate enough that my husband makes enough money that I don't have to be working. But I'll say, the keto thing and then learning how to help myself and just starting to feel better. I've also kind of gone on this quest or this journey to seek self-improvement. And I'm hungry. Like I at one point during the keto process, I freaked out because I have always done like yo-yo dieting in the past. And I asked myself, dang it, Stacy, what is it going to take this time for you to stick to this, for you to keep this going? And so in my pursuit of finding that answer, I didn't realize that I was actually living the answer. What that means is I started hitting like videos like how to sustain change, blah, blah, blah. Rachel Hollis's book, her first one, she talked about the book called The Power of the Habit by Charles Duhigg, which in my opinion is actually kind of a painful book to get through, but I forced myself to do it because I wanted to know how I could change my habits. And I learned some good things, but I probably could summarize that book for you in 5 minutes to save you guys some time. But anyway, so I started researching. I got in a habit where I was watching motivational videos at least once a day, something educational at least once a day, and that became a part of my daily routine. Well, that's just it. That was me living my answer. Your answer for creating change and that change remaining consistent in your life comes from, hang on a sec, guys, sorry. Okay, can you guys hang on a second? I'm on a video. Stand right here and just be quiet for just a second and I'll help you, okay? Can you share? Can you share? Here. Get your monster trucks. Hang on a sec, guys. Mom life, right? Here, you take this. Here, sis. Come sit with Mom. Close the door, baby. For me, thank you. Hang on. Oh, there's another one right there. Go get it in the horsey. Bring them to Mama. And so anyway, you want to go back out there? Okay, but you got to be nice, okay? You got to share. Come on. You want to stay? Okay. Stay and listen for Mom. All right. So anyway, so what I didn't realize was feeding my brain every day was the key to creating sustainable change. So back to the sales thing, the whole reason why I got into Zaya is because through this personal development and learning more about myself, learning to love myself again, what my primary driving forces in life are, the things that I seek most, is I'm a communicator. I have a lot to say, and that doesn't mean that what I say is meaningful to everyone. It doesn't mean that what I say applies to everyone. We're all different. But come here, buddy. Can you say hi to everybody? You see a boy? Can you say hi? Hi. 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 Is that Corbin? Yeah. Yeah. Uh-oh. And so what I realized is that I wanted to create a community of people around me. And those of you that are already on some of my groups, I've got a keto discussion page. I've got a Girls Growing Gardens page. Those are all ways that I have reached out to people around me to try to kind of find my tribe, my people, the people that are like me, that are seeking improvement and want to live a healthy lifestyle and want to grow. So I've been, for a while, there's been this idea tugging at my heart, thinking that I wanted to start vlogging, doing something like on YouTube. And so when this opportunity came about, I realized that I have a love for Zaya, and I don't feel like I have to necessarily sell it. I do believe the hardest part is getting Zaya in everybody's hands to experience it for themselves. And obviously, it may not be for everyone. That's okay. But for the people that don't know what they're missing out on until they experience it, the main goal is to get Zaya in people's hands for them to experience for themselves. And I believe from that point on, it's gonna do what it needs to do. Like, I don't have to do much in the way of sales. And what I like about this page is it gives me an opportunity to connect to like-minded people. And what have I got to lose at this point? Like, the starter kits, most of the time you get back in product the amount that you spend in a starter kit. And I also thought that this would be a great way for me to experience being in front of a camera, talking to people, especially people that I know and I care about, that I'm more comfortable in front of. So for me, this may end up by being kind of a little bit of an experiment. I hope it works out well. But if nothing else, I hope that I have a chance to create a sense of community with you guys. You guys are all here for a reason. I invited you all for a reason. And I hope that you all will continue to help me make this page a sense of community where we can share inspiration, we can share our stories, we can share our life experiences. Do you want to go out?
No.
What's the matter?
No.
You see a boy? Do you want Mom to hold you? Here, hang on. Let's let you go out. Go be with Sissy. Be nice, okay? So anyway, thank you guys for listening to my story. I'm so sorry about all the interruptions. That's life for you. Going forward, like I said, my hope for this page is that we can be a community of people that are all seeking the same kinds of things, wanting to live the same kinds of lifestyle, even if it looks a little bit different. And I just appreciate y'all being here and participating with me. I hope you guys have a good day. Bye.